welcome back to another video. As you can see, I've got some things on my desk. I'm going to be testing out some paint in this video. I did get sent it, but of course, as always, all the opinions will be my own, and I've been really wanting to try this out actually for a while. I remember seeing a bunch of videos of people trying this stuff out a while ago, and I always remember thinking that looks pretty cool, because one of the main things I dislike about painting is having to squeeze paint out of the tube. I find it really annoying. And I know it doesn't really take that long, but still, this seems like it would solve a lot of the issues which I have with paint. So it is the HIMI Gouache. I did get sent two sets. This one, this smaller one here, is a metallic set. I didn't actually know I was getting sent this one. I thought I was just going to get sent the big one. I don't really use metallics in my art, but it'd be interesting just to see what they look like. So I got this, and plus this is a really cute case, so if I want to like take just a few paints with me and like travel with them, I can take paints from this and put them into the smaller case, so it's like a cute like travel case, I suppose, as well as the metallic paint. And then this big one comes with 112 colours. That's what it kind of looks like inside. They look like little sauce packets. Right, I will show you quickly inside this one. Basically the whole point of them, from the little bit of research that I've done, I will do a bit more research and tell you about it during the voiceover, but this right now is literally like first impressions. I've watched like 2 YouTube videos before doing this of just people trying it out. Is that it's paint that it's paint that stays wet for a very long time, and this is like an airtight container. From what I understand, you have to kind of keep on top of the maintenance and like spray them with water every now and then, but for the most part they will stay pretty wet. And there you go, they're just little tubs of paint. So this is a metallic set. I don't know what this little floppy thing is. I don't know what it is. What's this for? Is that to like mix paints on? I don't know what that is. Or is it to help it stay airtight? I'm not sure, but the container is very cute. And then the main event, this huge thing, it's very heavy actually, has this pull-out handle if you wanted to carry it anywhere. I love this colour as well. I'm in a real blue phase at the moment, so I appreciate the colour. Okay, so this is super airtight, as you can see, and it's got like a bit of, oh, that's stuck on, that is, bit of foam. And here you go. It doesn't look like much at the moment. If I take one of these out, you can see, yeah, 2 paints in one pot. I think you can get pots where like that is just one colour, so in this you get a lot of colours but you get less of each colour, but you can get sets where like this whole thing is the same colour, if that makes sense, so you can get more of less colours or less of more colours. Let me turn this upside down so you can see all the very pretty colours. You get a little glimpse of them here. So what I'm gonna do is spend, I don't know how long it'll take, probably quite a while, peeling off all the little lids to reveal the paint, and I'm gonna test out the colours and try and paint something. I want to paint something quite fun, like kind of children's illustration-esque, and just be really playful with it. So that's what my plan is. Don't know what, but it'll be something very playful and silly is what I'm gonna paint. Let's peel a lid off and see if it sounds satisfying. Oh, it's quite hard to peel off actually. No. Oh no, hopefully I'll get better at this. They're actually quite hard to take off. Ah, okay, it's off. Okay, that one was a lot easier to take off. Okay, all the colours have been, the lids have been taken off. That actually took ages. It took probably around 40 minutes, no, maybe half an hour. Probably half an hour to do that. Some of them came off super easy, others were really stuck on there good. I had to get the tweezers involved and the scissors involved. They say about 80% of them just like glided off. And then for some reason, like some of the blues were causing me a lot of issues. Mainly like, I feel like this row here was the trouble causer. Anyway, that's done now. I'm looking at them and I think I might need to give them a little stir, because there's like little pools of I don't really know what it is, to be honest. You see it in a lot of paints, like when you get a fresh tube of like watercolour paint, you squeeze it out and it comes out quite, looks like it's having a little wee when you squeeze it out the tube for the first bit. So yeah, I think I just need to give them a bit of a mix because they've probably been sat in here for ages. So I might get a little needle or probably a toothpick actually. I'll get a few toothpicks and I'll just stir them all up and then do some swatching. It's getting quite hot in here today, so I think that's all I can probably handle for today, and then I'll come back tomorrow, although for you no time will pass, and I'll do a nice little painting. Okay, so here I am mixing up the paints. I just used a little stir stick and mixed them up. This actually took quite a while, but it really did make a big difference. You can see the difference between one that's been stirred up, not long stirring it, about 30 seconds, just wiggling it around, the difference between the stirred paint and the unstirred paint. Yeah, it takes a while, but I do recommend mixing it all up. And then I tested out all the colours. I started off by doing lots of like nice precise little blobs and then quickly got very bored of that, so I started just doing whatever shapes I wanted with the paint. My opinions on this is that there's like kind of every colour under the sun. Some of the colours are much thicker than other colours. I noticed especially the pale pinks and purples were quite thin, that they weren't super opaque, but then there were other colours that were really opaque, so kind of a big mix in there of opaqueness and lovely choice of colours. So after I'd done this, I decided to just have a play around with the paints. I've been wanting to just slap some paint around for a while now, because if you don't know, and this is like the first video you've watched of mine, I'm primarily like a collage artist, so I don't really get the chance to paint that much anymore, because I do paint a lot. I paint on my papers and then I cut them up and I stick them down, but I haven't had the chance to like do a painting like this in ages, so I thought I would decorate the inside covers of my sketchbook because I finished it, so I thought I would paint a nice cover saying the date when I started the sketchbook and when I finished the sketchbook, just slap some paint around it and make some fun patterns just to play around with the paint, and also to familiarise myself with gouache, because it has been a very long time since I've painted anything in gouache, and whenever I do paint with gouache, it's kind of in conjunction with watercolour, so I thin it down a lot and basically use gouache like watercolour. But for this, because I was painting obviously onto a sketchbook cover which is black, I was using the paint quite thick, and I thought it would also just be a good test to see how opaque the paint is. The white is super opaque, and like I said, just some colours are more opaque than other colours, but then the colours which aren't opaque and are quite thin, you can just mix them with the white, which is super thick, and then they kind of become a lot thicker. So I was just playing around with the paint, doodling, no real plan. I also messed up the date on this. It was supposed to say December 2024. No, December 2022, because it took me ages to fill this sketchbook and I completely messed up. It was, you know, when like you have a sketchbook, you do like one page in it and then you don't touch it for a year, and then you get around to finishing it further down the line. This was one of those sketchbooks, so really it should say December 2022 to July 2024, and considering the thinness of the sketchbook, that's taken me a very long time to fill. Anyway, here I am just slapping some blue around, having it quite watered down just to see how it spreads, and then as I was going along building up the layers. But like I said, I'm just playing around with the paint at this point, just having fun, not really trying to achieve much, just playing, and I really enjoyed playing with this. One thing I would say this paint set is good for, and it is, well, I'd say that sentence again. One thing I think this paint set is really good for is just playing. There's so many colours to choose from and they're just like right there ready to grab. You don't have to mess around with mixing. It's just so quick to slap stuff down. It is just really fun to play with. Just like have fun in your sketchbook, and I can imagine myself getting a lot of use out of this. One thing I did notice whilst I was using this, especially, not so much for this because it was quite a quick thing I was doing, but later on in the video I did some much longer pieces of art, so I had the lid off of this for quite a while, like 3 hours, 4 hours at a time I'd have the lid off for, and it also happened to be, I also happened to be painting during like one of the hottest days of the year so far, so the paints, after like an hour or so, you could kind of see the top of the paint starting to get just less shiny, becoming, I suppose, thicker and less, just starting to become less shiny and more like they were starting to dry out, but not really. It was just kind of the top layers. So I had a spray bottle at the side of me, and every couple hours I was just spraying the paint with water, and that like quickly solved any issues with the paint starting to go a little bit thicker. Yeah, and I was watching a lot of videos as well of other people using this, and everyone was like recommending that whenever you finish using the paints, or like even whilst you're using the paints, just spray them with a bunch of water, and it helps keep them nice and wet and stops them from drying out. You have to like do a lot of maintenance with these paints. Like if you've not used them for a couple of weeks, just take them out and give them a spray if you want to keep them wet for as long as possible, because if left on their own they will eventually dry out. But you can reactivate them, but to avoid having to do that in the first place, just keep spraying them every now and then. After I decorated the inside covers of my sketchbook, I thought that was quite fun. I much prefer the back page which I painted, which I put Fin for finish, but still I enjoyed it. I decided to move on to painting a much more complex image. The image I chose to paint is one that I actually collaged a few weeks ago. I'll pop the collage I did of it up on screen, so it's fun to like compare medias. I suppose you can kind of see the picture in this frame on my phone. It's a boat on a beach, and I really like this picture, and I thought, seeing as I've already made a piece of art using this picture, like I'm really familiar with it, and I really like boats, so I thought it'd just be a nice one to paint because I'm very rusty. This painting made me realise just how rusty I am when it comes to painting in gouache. I used to do it quite a lot, and there's a lot of kind of techniques you have to remember with gouache, which I had kind of forgotten, and it made it a little bit difficult to paint this. And that is, you kind of have to start with the paint thin and then work as you build up the layers. You make the paint thicker and thicker, because if you put a really thick paint down first and then try to paint on top of that with a thinner paint, it's just going to reactivate the paint underneath, and it causes all kind of issues, which I faced when I was trying to paint the sand on this beach. So it was a learning curve, this piece, remembering how gouache works, because it can be a little bit fiddly at times to work with, because everything just reactivates. Because it is water activated, which on one hand is amazing because you can just reactivate the paint when it's dry and use it forever. That's one really good bonus point for gouache. But then equally, when you're trying to paint a layer on top of another layer and it starts making the layer underneath go wet it can get muddy very quickly. But that's just gouache. That's the nature of gouache, and not so much to do with like this brand. It just takes a bit of a learning curve to get used to. I think I managed to pull it off anyway. I really like how this piece turned out. The paints I found super easy to work with, and mixing colours was nice because there was so much to choose from. Like there were some colours I didn't really have to mix because they were just already there in the set. So that was nice. One thing, like I briefly mentioned before, is the paint can get muddy, but that's more a skill issue rather than a paint issue. That's just me not being very good at gouache. When you kind of layer and you keep wanting to tweak the colours, so you start putting colours on top of colours, and then it all just blends together too much and you end up with a really muddy looking colour. That happened a little bit in this piece, but I managed to save it at the end because I cropped it. I ended up cutting this piece a lot smaller than I actually painted it. I just love the look of gouache as well. I really like that textured, and I was purposely trying to paint kind of wobbly, and I wasn't being super precise with my paint. I wanted it to have that kind of childlike, not childlike I suppose, but kind of loose, painterly look. I didn't want it to look super realistic, so I was kind of blobbing the paint down in areas and really like simplifying things down, and I really like the way that looks. I just like the texture that you naturally get with gouache. So I've popped together a pros and cons list of everything I could come up with for these paints. So I'm going to go through everything one by one, and then at the end of it do my final opinion of are they worth it or not. So pro number one is there's a lot of colours to choose from. There's 112 colours and they're all quite pretty colours, and I really enjoy having that choice because as someone who does a lot of painting, I often have to mix colours. I find it annoying to have to mix colours. So having that step already done for me is always a bonus. Although a con to this could be if you're new to painting, you could find this amount of colour choice overwhelming and difficult to not know how to like mix colours. But equally, you could find it easier because there's less colour mixing that you have to do. It just kind of depends on which way you view it. So a con is the maintenance. Now I've obviously only just received these, so I can't give information of how these are long term, but from what I've seen by watching other videos is there's maintenance that has to be done to make sure they don't dry out. If they do dry out, it's not the end of the world, you can reactivate them. I would be interested to see how they fare after time has passed, so maybe in like a year's time I'll do another video about them to show you kind of how they're looking after a year. But obviously that's not really something I can comment on now because I've only had them for like a week. There's lots of videos on YouTube if you want to look at people opening up their like gouache sets after like a year. They are pro. They're easy to use and very convenient because all the colours are right there and ready to go. You don't have to bother with unscrewing loads of lids and squeezing out paint, and then you've accidentally squeezed out too much paint and then you've wasted paint. And it's in a very cute case. I love the colour and I'm a sucker for cute packaging, and this definitely has cute packaging. A con is if you're not careful when you're painting, you could contaminate another colour with a colour. So you could have paint on your brush and then go to grab another colour from one of the paint pots and you've accidentally put a bunch of one colour into another colour. And if you're not careful and you do that a bunch, you're going to end up with just a paint that's really messy. But to combat that, just be careful. Whenever I was getting paint out of the tub and I still had paint on my paintbrush, I was careful to kind of take it from the same spot in the paint pot, like I wasn't taking it right from the middle. And then if I wanted to grab a bit of like white paint after I'd just used a really dark colour, I was like, let's just wash my brush. Easy way to solve that issue is just wash your brush in between picking up paint. I didn't really find it to be an issue. I'll show you what the paint looks like now after I've been using it for like a week, and you can see it's not really that much of an issue. Just be careful when you're picking up your colours, I suppose. Here's the finished painting of the boat. I really like how this turned out, and I ended up cropping it. Got my guillotine out and just trimmed it, and it looks a lot nicer because I kind of messed up the bottom of the piece. After I finished this painting, the following day I decided to start another painting, but this time doing like something which was a little bit more mixed media. So I was using my gouache with also coloured pencils and my Neo colour crayons just to see how they all work together. I wanted to do something super playful and fun, so that's what this piece is. Back to my pros and cons list. Next pro is they are budget friendly. I've done some maths here, so I'm going to talk numbers for a second. This set currently costs £59 on Amazon. You get 112 colours and you get 12mm of each colour. That's 52p per colour. For comparison, I looked at the Winsor & Newton set, which is also a watercolour set, which I have, and that's £37 for 10 colours and it's 14mm per colour. This set, in this video, you get a lot more paint for your money, and yeah, I just think it's a lot more budget friendly. Now, you don't need 112 colours, like you can just mix colours, like you can make any colour from very few colours, if that makes sense. So the set of 10 colours for the Winsor & Newton, it's not like you only have 10 colours, you have an endless amount of colours, you just have to mix it. But with the HIMI Gouache, you obviously get a larger amount of colour, and a larger like volume of paints. So yeah, that just puts it into a little bit of perspective. I think this is a very budget friendly set, and they do a lot of other sets which are cheaper, which have less paints in them if the like £59 is a little bit out of your budget. Anyway, another con is it doesn't come with something to like somewhere to mix your colours. I was looking at other videos about like HIMI gouache sets, and some of the smaller sets come with a little mixing, like a sheet to mix your colours on, or you can mix the colours on the back of the lid. However, the back of this lid has foam on it, so you can't do that. So I was just having to use a separate plate, which isn't really an issue, but just something I thought of. Oh, and the final thing is they can dry a little bit chalky. Some of the colours I noticed kind of just had this chalky finish to them once they dried. That doesn't really bother me that much. I don't mind the way that looks, but it is just something to bear in mind. Anyway, are they worth it? I would say yes, I really enjoyed them, but it just depends on what you're into. I would love to use these paints to do a bunch of like playful paintings, to just play around in my sketchbook. I think they would be really good for that, and I'm really glad that I have them. I think they're perfect for playing around in your sketchbook and just doing fun pieces of art. Would I use these paints to do like a super finished piece which I plan on selling or investing like loads of time into? I would probably reach for maybe my Winsor & Newton gouache. Having said all that, I'm really glad I have them, and if I wanted to do a quick painting in my sketchbook or like a study of something or just play and have fun, this would be the top of my list because this is the most fun I've had making art in a very long time. Just playing around with these paints, I think they're so much fun. I really like the way this painting turns out with the grasshopper. It's not really coming across how I want it to come across on camera. It looks a lot nicer in real life. The camera, I always struggle with getting green pieces of art to look nice on my camera. It looks really sharp and harsh, but in real life I feel like the colours are a lot nicer and it's a lot softer, but I just cannot get it to translate on camera. But just take it from me, this painting, if you was to see it in real life, looks a lot nicer, but I've tried everything and I can't get it to come across on camera. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have these paints and how they look now. This is just my first impressions after my first week of using them. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks again, HIMI, for sending me these paints. I love them. And that's all from me. Goodbye.